Morning, everyone.
How are you?
What's up, Jeff?
It's a quiet room so far.
It always takes a little warming up.
Yeah, that's okay. We can do some up here.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Dee.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, great to see everybody. It's always nice when everyone's got the cameras on and you can start to put some faces to some names. I know I've been chatting with some of you for a while. Morning, Ben.
I've already started in on the coffee.
There you go.
Got mine.
All right.
Cheers. Have our incoming students, did you receive yours in less than 20 pieces? Nice.
I did.
We had a couple of mail snafus, but that did with breakable items.
Did we had some casualties?
We had a couple casualties. Yeah, a couple students got theirs in their box. They opened their box and it was like, ceramic confetti.
Oh dear.
But
Not the impression we wanted to make.
no, that wasn't the intention. But I think that they took it in good humor and we sent out replacements.
2020, the year of
I mean, expect
It
what
seems
you
like if it went beyond the capital district, it was a higher risk pool than
right. Well, we definitely are waiting for a few more. So I guess we could just sort of give it one more minute before we get into any sort of conversation. But for those of our incoming students who are here, if any of you would mind sharing, like where are you joining from? It's always nice to sort of hear where we're at. Anybody feel like sharing?
I'm currently quarantined in Rhode Island.
There you go. Thank you, Greg.
I'm in Glenville, like 30 minutes away.
There you are. I have family over there. I spent some time there.
I'm actually visiting Albany today.
Great. Well, welcome, Claire.
Thank you.
Where are you visiting from, Claire?
I'm originally from Austin, Texas, but right now I've been in Florida with my family. So I guess you could say I'm from both.
Okay.
It's more common to find people from everywhere, right? More various places. It's not as easy as it used to be to say I'm from one place. Yeah. Anybody else care to join in?
Hello.
Rated the chat too for shy. Joshua. Hey, where are you?
Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
There we
Now we're
go.
east of Philly.
Nice. Well, like, I suppose I could also just give like a 30-second overview. I don't know how many people are familiar with using Zoom. I think by now, probably everyone's had at least a little bit of exposure, if not through Austin, through other platforms, whether it's at your undergrad institution or pretty much anything these days, right? You got to do it all virtually. But just in case anybody is not familiar, you have a toolbar or a panel at the bottom, and there is a participants button where you can sort of, there's a raise your hand feature. So if at any point during the conversation you'd like to do that, myself and other moderators will be watching the queue and we can call on you if you want to speak. There's also the chat feature where you can just type in your comments, thoughts, questions throughout the time. You can select an individual to send comments to, or you can send it to the group as a whole. We will be watching for that as well. You can post questions there or any kind of interaction that you're interested in. That's probably the bigger key features. If you look usually in the top right corner, there's a button that says either speaker view or gallery view. If you choose gallery view, you'll see sort of everybody in the little boxes. And I think that's the most fun way to view this type of format. And there's a speaker view, which will highlight whoever is primarily speaking at the moment, and you won't see as many other faces. If you're on a mobile device, you probably will need to swipe through several screens to see multiple faces. So I think that's probably the do's and don'ts. When you're not speaking, it might be best to leave your microphone muted. There's a little microphone button. You can click it to unmute. If ever you want to join the conversation, feel free to unmute yourself and jump on in. But if there's too many people with background noise, sometimes it gets a little sticky. So you can leave it muted when you're not actually speaking. That would be great. So now that we're sort of getting started, in case anybody doesn't know, I think most of you I've met by this point. I'm Amy Mangione. I'm Assistant Dean of Admissions, and I have really been enjoying getting to know you all through the application process and communicating with you over recent months. So I'm glad that you can join us today, but really the star of our show is our president and dean, Alicia Willett, who wanted to come and chat with you all. Willett, take it away.
Hi, everyone. So it's not so much me starring the show as I want to just talk with you and have a chance to get to know you. I'll just start by saying welcome to the class of 2023 or 24. If you're a four-year student at Albany Law School, we're just really thrilled to have you. We're excited to get to know you in and out of class, whether it's in person or remotely. I imagine that some of you have questions about the reopening, the return to campus plan and how that's all going to work. So I'll give you just the very basics, but you can ask questions in chat, raise your hand, just shout and interrupt me. I wish we were all in one room together and able to do this in person. But you will see that here and throughout your experience during your time at Albany Law School, all of your faculty, all of your staff, all of your deans are really connected and want very much to get to know you and answer your questions. Sometimes, sometimes we give answers you don't like, but sometimes we give answers that you do like, or we always try to work with students when there are concerns. And that's definitely been a priority as we've been working on what do we do in 2020 in a pandemic to meet the needs of our future law students and our current law students. And so we underwent a really extensive planning process. You probably have seen the plan. It's long, 41 pages, all kinds of detail, and it's all the plan. It's a plan, so plans change. Someone said to me the other day that his father was in the Navy and would say a plan only lasts until you meet the enemy, and then it changes again. And there's a little bit of that for all of us in our lives, that things are moving targets. But let me tell you what we're planning on. If we were starting tomorrow, this is what it would look like. What we decided to do is to really maximize flexibility in the fall semester for all of you. So what does that mean? It means that we have spent a lot of time over the summer investing in technology so that students and faculty can attend classes in person and remotely simultaneously. This is we're installing really sort of top of the line microphones and screens, and we will have classrooms of the future that are now. And so when you start at law school and you're in your first class, some of you may start remotely, and that will mean that you'll sign into class and you'll see the classroom. You'll also see your fellow remote students. Your faculty may be in the classroom or maybe out of the classroom, and there will be a teaching assistant who's going to pay special attention to make sure that we never lose, that we get lots of attention on everyone, whether it's if the faculty member is talking to remote students who are attending remotely, or is talking to students who are physically present, that all students are getting all the attention that they need. In law school, the attention sometimes means you're being called on. So you may not want that attention, but we're gonna make sure you get it, because that's part of the experience let's see who's got a last name. Andrew Duty, like Mr. Duty, we may say, Mr. Duty, I'd like you to please recite the facts of the case that you read for today. And you're just as likely to have that experience whether you're in the class physically or whether you're participating remotely. So that's sort of the main theme. There's a lot of safety considerations that we have to take, and all of you will have to make that decision of whether you feel that you want to be in an in-person situation, or you want to be attending remotely, or you want to do some of each. It may be that for some of you, so you will each have at least one very small section class. It's an introduction to lawyering. you may decide that for that class, you feel comfortable attending in person, and that other ones you want to attend remotely. Or it may be that one of you will spike a fever and need to quarantine for a while until we can get you tested and your fever goes away, in which case, even if you hadn't intended to participate in person, you will participate remotely. So the plan and the work that we've done in getting ready for the fall allows that kind of flexibility, moving sort of in and out. And we really have been working very hard as a faculty. The faculty have been doing trainings 2 to 3 times a week on how to best teach in this kind of hybrid format. We want to make sure that the experience is as good as it can be. It's different from what we've done in the past, and it's going to be different because of physical distancing. It's going to be different because in order to keep everyone safe, everyone has to wear masks and all of those things. But we think that it's the best plan that we could come up with. That we're really committed to making it work, and we're really excited to start the fall semester and really get to know you, however you intend to participate. Does anyone know for certain that they plan to attend in person? Raise your virtual hand. Okay, and seeing some, so many of you know for certain that you plan to attend remotely. Seeing hands go down. Okay, Taylor, yeah. Okay.
Seeing some savvy Zoom users already. That's great.
Yeah. So that's sort of the sense that I'm getting, is that we will have more people who plan to attend in person than remotely, but that for our remote students, Taylor, we're gonna take care of you. We're gonna make sure that you have a really good experience, and we all, I mean, one of the things we know, law school is stressful. You guys many of you just graduated from college. You had a senior year that was unlike anything that you signed up for, right? Some of you were or are working, and you've had a spring that's different from anything you signed up for. We're trying to give you as much information about what the fall will look like, but we also have to ask for some flexibility in this because things keep changing, right? Some of you I know are from some of the states that in March you were looking at New York and going, what the heck's going on in New York? It looks kind of scary. Now in New York, we have very few cases, and some of the other states, it's a very different situation where you're seeing the surge in the virus. And I don't know about all of you, but I feel like time moves so differently in quarantine that we're taught. I mean, you're starting law school really, really soon. It's what, 5 weeks? 5 weeks, is that right? And you're going to start getting information from us. You're going to be given some assignments to do before. You're going to have to do some trainings. You're going to start getting some of your orientation materials. But 5 weeks is no time at all, and yet it's in quarantine land. It's all the time in the world. We just don't know exactly what things will be. But one of the things, some of the principles that have guided us as we've been trying to make the best decisions for how to do this. One has been the flexibility of meeting people where they are, because that's really important. Another is maintaining absolute excellence in the quality of the education and the sort of social experience, all that goes on at law school beyond just the classes. And then a third has just been a lot of communication. We're doing these chats with the incoming classes. We have, for the current students and the graduates, been doing lots and lots of town halls. In the next week or so, we're going to start inviting all of the deposited students to the town halls. We're giving the current students a chance to freak out on their own. What's this mean for my locker, right? What does this mean for this thing? You guys don't need to be quite in those conversations just yet, but we're going to bring you in real soon because you're part of the school. And if you want to attend, you can. And what we found is that by doing, so in the beginning of the pandemic, we did, it was a daily, every single day, Saturdays and Sundays, 4:30. I showed up, my dean colleagues all showed up, Dean Mangione showed up, and we just talked about what was happening, what we were thinking, what the questions were. And it was really a proud moment, I think, for Albany Law School, in that our students were really involved in some of the hard decisions, like how do we do grading given that the rug was pulled out from under everybody in terms of what they expected with classes, and we got lots of input from students. We're doing much of the same with respect to the reopening plan. And I expect we'll continue to have the sort of regular meetings, which we always had. We did a town hall once each semester in the past, but now I think if we went down to even just once a week, it would feel like not enough maybe. So we'll continue to do those, just so that we're all able to have community no matter what it looks like. So I've just been chatting a lot. So I do want this to be a conversation. So any questions from all of you, whether about reopening, what it's going to look like, or law school? What is moot court? What is law review? What are the clubs? How about housing? And anything that's on your mind, feel free to raise a hand, speak up, or just put something in chat.
I have a question. I was wondering, are we still waiting on state approval to open, to make that final decision?
So we filed the plan with the state, so we're all set with the state.
Okay.
So the contingency, though, is that the state could change its mind, right?
Okay.
The state
All right.
say, right, like it did with restaurants in New York City. It said you can open on Friday, and then they pulled back. So that's the part where I don't want to say that for sure. I mean, it all looks good, and August 24th we're ready. But yeah, so our plan is good. Good to go, good to roll. And we've actually opened some things already. So the law library on a very sort of limited basis, but our summer school students and our students who are studying for the bar exam are using the library. Our faculty are back in their offices if they want to be. And like all of you, we all have different risk tolerance, right? It's like some people are like, out in restaurants and living, their lives hopefully safely. I hope you will all be safe, because it's important. Some of our faculty who are going to be teaching you are elderly. They're fabulous. They're wonderful, and they're incredibly vulnerable. And we don't, we all want to take responsibility for the health and safety of everyone else. But there are other people who just, aren't tolerant of risk and haven't, been in quarantine, truly quarantined, are still having their groceries delivered and haven't really ventured out into the world. And for those folks, there's, so it's a very interesting time. But we're sort of moving ahead. We are lucky in that we have a fair amount of physical space. I spent a lot of time working with other law school deans and presidents of colleges, and particularly with the law school deans. A lot of the schools are sort of vertical, which really limits their ability to have in-person classes with physical distance. We have the benefit of, we're very flat. There, it's right behind me in my virtual screen. It's pretty flat. There are 5 stories, but most of the time you only go up to the 4th one. You will, part of the plan is you'll be walking on the stairs rather than taking the elevator. So you'll get your steps. We've built some more time for that kind of stuff in. Okay, I see a question. Moot court and law review would be possible in these circumstances. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely possible and going forward, and never really stopped. The moot court had a bit of a hiccup. I was coaching a team that was supposed to travel and compete down in Brooklyn, and that competition got canceled. But most of the moot court competitions, even in the spring, just got turned virtual. So even the live courts are doing their hearings remotely. They're they started slowly, but they're doing them. Our plan allows for this sort of phased reopening. We're really focusing on student events. We're not going to let the faculty or the staff do meetings or events in the fall to the extent we're able to safely allow you to when we get to the dates. We will have some events. Now, first-year students have very little engagement with the law review and the law journals, but that's something that you will qualify for as you go into your second year. But I'll tell you about those, and then I'll talk about moot court. So there's a law review, the Albany Journal of Science and Technology, and the government law review. And so you have 3 different choices if you're inclined to do a law review. Law reviews publish legal scholarship, often written by law professors, sometimes by practitioners and judges. And the task of the law review staff, the editors, is to select what gets published and then edit it and get it ready for prime time. So unlike in most academic settings where you've got peer reviewers dealing with faculty scholarship, in the law, it's actually students and student boards of the law review. So that's something that you do in your second and your third year or your fourth year if you're a 4-year student. That work continues. They all switch to doing remote editing and using shared docs and whatnot. So that was fairly straightforward. The moot court's more complicated because it's either trial competitions or appellate advocacy competitions or negotiation competitions or arbitration competitions. And ideally, those do take place in person. What we've done in the plan is allow for the possibility that we can do that. So assuming things are going well with the classes after the first 2 weeks, then students will be able to do student on student competitions. In the third phase of the reopening, we'll allow invited guests, and that's really about judges for moot court competitions more than anything else. There's very few outsiders that we're going to want to have in the building in the fall. We want to really put you in a bubble to the extent that we can and protect you. But for some competitions, we have really esteemed judges that come and our students argue in front of or to those judges. And we don't want to deprive our competitors of that opportunity if we're able to do it in person. If we can't, we'll do it remotely. And we may have competitors who are remote, and that's how the courts are working. And so there'll just be and I've actually done this in real life. I've argued appellate arguments where I've been a video participant and my adversary was in the courtroom with a panel of live judges. We know how to make that work. First year students don't actually compete in the moot court competitions, but you can act as bailiffs, which means that you'll read the little thing that says, oyez, 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 all stand. It's very formal. It's kind of fun. You can, and I encourage you all to do it. You'll see some great advocacy. You'll keep time, make sure if someone wants rebuttal in the argument that they get rebuttal and that kind of thing. So there are opportunities on moot court. There's also juries. We're always looking for juries for the senior prize trials, for the negotiation and client counseling competitions. We look for clients, for actors. So there may well be there may well be opportunities for first year students for that. And we are planning to be as seamless as we can with remote and in person. There are going to be hiccups, right? We all have been on the Zoom call where someone pops out. I had a meeting with Dean Mangione yesterday, and my internet kept, and I guess she said I was like a fairy dust. I just went shout into the ether, and we are all learning how to deal with that, but we're optimistic that it really will work, and it will be very meaningful opportunity. Okay.
I want to thank everybody for our questions. They're heating up, so I'm going to give Dean Willett a moment to sort of scan.
Okay. Yeah. Do you want to pitch some to me, Amy? That might help.
I can. So one of the next questions was if you could just give an overall sense of the faculty and staff sort of attitude right now. Are they reluctant to go back on campus and or have students come back to campus, or are they excited to see students return?
I think people are really excited. Those people who have, they may have, there's a couple members of our faculty who have someone at home or who have medical conditions, and they're probably going to be teaching remotely. They're working really hard to figure out how to do it best. Our faculty love our students. Our staff seem to love our students. People, my sense, and others, there are a couple other staff folks on the line, but my sense is that people are really eager to, we love being on campus. Our students love being on campus, and we want to make sure that everyone who's on campus in whatever form, whether it's remote or in person, that we're back together in a way that feels just as meaningful as it has in the past. And I think we did okay in the spring, right? There were things that were born of COVID that will last. Some of you may be involved in the Albany literary circles or society. So that was something that came out of the daily town halls, where the students were like, we want something to do over the summer where we stay connected, we like talking to each other, and we want some meaning around it. And I think there's 50 participants in that this summer. Some of the online programming has been fabulous. So I think we're going to continue to do much of that. Jeff Sieber, I see on the call, and he's been helping with organizing some of the alumni events, which we've been able to open to students in a new way. So all of that. So I think that everyone's nervous about the pandemic. Nobody wants to get sick. Many of us had people in our families, who got the disease, and lots of worry, and we want to protect one another. So there's trepidation, but there's also, I think the opening of the library was a really good test, and the staff was there half an hour before we opened the doors, and they couldn't wait to get in, and the students were there, and people were there was tears of joy at seeing each other. So I think we're all optimistic. And really, I mean, it's the best thing when we all get back together in whatever way whatever it's gonna look like in this new normal.
So if you could speak a little bit about how the pandemic has affected this summer, students getting internships and job placements, things like that, and if you have any sort of expected thoughts on what it may mean for the future.
Oh, what a good job. What a good question. So for the summer, it did affect some of the, so the internships and jobs changed, went from being many people who had intended to be working in judges' chambers or in a district attorney's office or in a law firm have ended up working from wherever their home office is, their childhood bedroom. Some of the programs were somewhat shortened, and there were a handful of students who had jobs that disappeared for the summer. So what the law school did was we tried to create opportunities for meaningful work for anyone who wanted it, and we created a COVID response corps. So we have some, I think it's about 30 students, and you might have the numbers, who are doing work directly related to COVID legal issues, working with lawyers at Legal Aid in Albany. And I know that I've talked to some of the students who are doing that. They're finding it incredibly meaningful. In terms of work ahead, I had a conversation. I'm teaching a class on COVID law, and I had guest speakers this past week, two of whom were former presidents of the New York State Bar Association, so really have their fingers on the pulse of the profession. And both of them talked about this tsunami of legal needs that is coming, that there is, whatever your interest, if it's public interest, if you want to work for people, that there are tens of thousands of people who have not been able to pay their rent. There's rent moratoriums and foreclosure and eviction moratoriums. That's all about to end. There's going to be litigation forever about that. There are so many questions about business interruption if you're on the business side of things, trying to get insurance coverage based on what they call force majeure. You'll learn all about this in contracts. The work in the health law side of things, what are the issues around mandatory vaccines, around contact tracing, what are the privacy issues that are coming up around COVID. There is so much legal work, and what they said is there is no better time to go to law school. If you want to make a meaningful difference in someone's life or in this world, this is the time to do it. And I think they're right. I think the firms, the private firms, and many of you will go into private firms, many of you will do other things. The private firms were shaken up, right? They had to go from, it was all in person, it was all across the table, and they had to learn how to do things remotely. But by the time you guys graduate, we'll be all going to be really good at this stuff, and the firms will be as well. So I'm optimistic. I mean, there's never any promises, but there is certainly going to be a vast need for well-trained, engaged attorneys. So I think you're doing this at the right time.
That was perfect handling of dual questions. You didn't even know it, but there was a question in the chat about what areas of law might be up and coming because of all of this. I think you totally nailed that. You mentioned your COVID class, and there's a little bit of an appetite wondering if that class will be available in future terms after they complete their 1L year.
I'm open to it. Yep, I've got one more week, so I've survived. So I love teaching more than anything else. And since I've been in my role as president and dean, I haven't been able to teach. And one of the upsides was I'm not traveling all the time trying to raise money for the law school, so I was able to do this. So I think we very well may offer it or something like it again. Now that we've done the trial run, there's so many legal issues, and it was super fun for me, and I think it was okay for my students too. So. Yeah.
So there's still a little bit of maybe a little more clarification that can be offered on exactly what is the hybrid model. So like, what would a hybrid classroom feel like? I think is more the question. And if that's not exactly it, the questioner is welcome to jump in and ask for more detail.
Yeah, it may look like different things depending on what your professor looks like. The main thing is that you'll have, it's synchronous, and that like right now we're all together at the same time, that there'll be students who are in person, and there'll be students who are attending class remotely at the same time. There may also be some parts of the class that the professor decides to put on we use Canvas as has anyone used Canvas? Blackboard, something like that. So Moodle, there's all of those things. So we use Canvas. So your professor might say, you know what, I'm gonna do a 20-minute lecture, and I'm gonna put that on Canvas so that you can watch that at your leisure. And then when we're all together, instead of having me do the lecture, so that the folks who are appearing via Zoom don't get zoomed out, we're going to use that time to do to do group work, or to work through hypotheticals, or to have intense discussion. So their hybrid means there's going to be bits and pieces of online learning and remote learning at the same time. Exactly what that will look like will depend on your professor. At a minimum, it's going to mean that kind of showing up for an in-person element together with your remote colleagues. Does that answer the question?
So it's more up to like the professor, not really like the student says, I want to do this course online, but I want to be in person for this course.
Oh, that's possible too, but the hybrid label is sort of describing how we teach it rather than the student's choice, but our plan definitely allows that. So I mean, if you were to say, I want to start out in person, but then, after 3 days, you're like, I don't feel comfortable for whatever reason. Maybe grandma gets sick, or maybe you see something that, you could switch and you could attend remotely. So you'll have that flexibility.
Thanks, Dean Willett. Another question about whether or not there will be an honors program, and if so, what that typically entails.
Yeah, so there's different kinds of honors things. There is, in the second and third year, we have a sponsor honors teaching fellowship program. And so that's something that depends on, you're invited to it based on your first year grades and performance. The sponsor fellows are teaching assistants. They're wonderful. There's some money that goes along with it. Then we have also in the past had a dean's honors program for some first year students. It's a purely sort of enrichment opportunity that you will be given a chance to apply for. We kind of want to see what the fall looks like before making any promises about that. In the past, we've done meetings with faculty where they talk about their research. We've done a field trip to some courts, done some meals with judges. We kind of follow the needs of what the students who are involved want. 1 year I had in the honors group a bunch of students who had never had any contact whatsoever with lawyers, and one of their big concern was like, how do you do a job interview where you're eating a meal at the same time, and I don't even really know how to eat in a fancy restaurant. So we went to a fancy restaurant and had meals with judges. So what's going to be possible in COVID land, we just don't know yet, but we'll make it as meaningful a program as we can. What I think we've agreed is we're going to take the applications for that later, once folks once we sort of have a better idea of what the first couple weeks look like. So look out for that, and it's fun, and I hope some of you will decide to do it. You're busy your first year of law school. It is. I do recognize some of you from some of the other sessions that I've talked about. So pardon me if you've heard this analogy before, but some of you took French in high school, right? Raise your hand. French, a little bit of French, right? All right, so now you took your high school French. Now we're going to drop you in the middle of a village in France, and we're going to say, have at it. Nobody speaks English. Law school's a little bit like that, because you think you know how to read and you think you know how to speak English, and the words in the casebook are all English, just like the French that they're all speaking in your little village is all French. But oh man, it's hard the first couple weeks and even months, and the learning curve is really, really steep. It gets better. All of a sudden you start getting fluent, and you're like, I can do this, and I'm not thinking about every sentence, and I'm not reading every sentence 16 times and going, I don't know what this says. That's part of the process of law school, but it's hard. It is exhausting, and I think that with safety measures and being, for those who are remote or on remote days or remote parts of your class, it can be exhausting, and we want to sort of see where you are before we add anything else to your plate. And it's part of why we recommend against anyone working in their first semester of law school. If you can possibly focus only on your classes, that is the best thing to do. Many of you will get involved with extracurriculars, and we know that nourishes you, but really your focus can and should be on just getting through those classes and gaining that fluency so that you're able to read those cases and engage in the conversation without it hurting your head so much as it does in those first couple of weeks. Not to scare you off. You get there. We've all survived it. DiMangione survived it. I survived it. It's part of the process, but it it's just a very different kind of studying than you did as an undergrad or even a graduate student. It's just a very intense kind of study, just like medical school is for med students. It's you're really learning another language, the language of law.
I will say embrace it, be open to it. Don't be nervous about it or resist it, because that's going to make it harder. Sort of go in anticipating it and almost looking forward to it, because it really is, it's a challenge, but it's really, really sort of enriching. And if you are open to it and you take it on board and you pay attention in those early moments, it makes the whole rest of your time in law school and ultimately your career way more enjoyable, because you won't be sort of constantly bucking against it, right? So just pay attention, do the work in the beginning to learn not just the content, but the skills. The first semester is so important to be about your skill set, how you're learning, how you're setting yourself up to learn the law in the future. So you'll get a lot of coaching, a lot of exposure from your faculty and academic support and your upper class student peers, and absorb all of it. But really, you know, buckle down and do it in the beginning, because it will make your life so much easier after that, would be my advice. So Dean Willett, we have a question that says that, I don't know if it's you or I, one of us may have spoke about a boot camp type seminar similar in the summer, and wondering if we have something similar offered this year.
So there is going to be something similar. I think that the plan is to stretch it a little bit more, and so that Dean Troy Riddle, who's our Assistant Dean for Diversity and Inclusion, also an attorney, and just brilliant, leads that with a couple of our faculty members, and they're working out all the plans for that. It's called Lighting the Pathways. They're working together with our team that's working on new student orientation for everybody, which is going to have a pretty heavy academic component online, so that everyone can do it and kind of come together. We want to really emphasize the in-person aspects of, for the in-person parts, we want it to be the more collaborative stuff. So it'll be a little bit of a flipped orientation, but you'll be getting those materials fairly soon, and look out for that information on the Lighting the Pathways program for those of you who do want to really jump in feet first.
Does that answer the question? You feel like, okay, great. Next question is, if you could please explain a little bit more about federal work study that is offered in the spring and what exactly it entails.
So it's part of your financial aid process. You may get a grant of work study, and I may not be the best person to explain this, but my understanding is, you know, if you get it, there's a certain number of hours you can work. And for first year students, most of you will decide to work in either in the admissions office or in the library. I think, is that right?
That's definitely where the majority of first year students come into play. There may be other campus opportunities, but for the most part, the library and the admissions office, I think, are the largest sort of users. There may be, I don't know, there may be in the Justice Center or other places where students.
Yeah, ITS, if anyone is techie, we're definitely going to be looking for work study students to help the, you know, our
Yep.
professors who are totally game to do this hybrid thing, but have to press a lot of buttons. We want someone in the classroom with each of them, so that is seamless for the.
Yeah. We always look to make use of all of our students' talent, right? So like however you want to contribute to the community, I'm sure we can find ways where we can all collectively benefit, right? We're definitely going to impart you with lots of wisdom, but we're open to learning some in return.
Yeah, and just in terms of jobs later, so your first year, we're protective of you. We just are. We don't want you working full time. If anyone needs to, talk to Dean Mangione or Dean Queenan, the Dean of Students. We're going to encourage you to do the 4-year program, take a later load, and just set yourself up for success. We can't force you to do it, but we're going to encourage you to do it. But most of our students in their starting in their summer after their first year and in their second and third year, more of our students do hold jobs than not. Many of them work downtown in firms, or in agencies. There's all kinds of demands for legal work. One of the great things about Albany Law is we're the only law school in town, and there's a lot of law made in Albany and done in Albany. So there's lots and lots of opportunities. But also a lot of people work on campus, and they may get jobs as teaching assistants or research assistants. It may be a sponsor fellow, one of our honors group. Or they may, many students work as research assistants for faculty and help with faculty research. So one of the things I would encourage all of you to do is read through the faculty bios. And if someone's doing work that you think is kind of cool, get to know that person. Now remember, all faculty have big egos. I'm faculty, so we like it that people like what we're interested in because we think it's the most interesting thing in the world. So if there's a student who thinks that Professor Keith Hirakawa's work on wetland ecosystems is the most interesting thing in the world, he will talk to you about it day and night as a first year, and he will very gladly hire you over the summer, even if you're doing another job, or in the fall to do work with him doing research. If you're interested in anything to do with public interest or public service, if you're interested in immigration, if you're interested in family law or children, if you're interested in business stuff, if you're interested in financial markets, please go talk to Professor Chung. She's always looking for more students. So that's another opportunity to use work study money if you have it package in a way that does a number of things. One, you get to work on something you're passionate about, which is just always, that's like a life goal for everybody. Do what you're passionate about. Two, you get a really good connection with a faculty member, which means when you go out looking for a job, you get someone who's on your side, making phone calls for you, saying, take a look at this student, you should hire this student, please interview this student, here's all the reasons why, because we take a lot of pride in the students that work with us and that we get to know. So that's a little insider tip. Try to get to know the faculty that do the work that you like, and they're, to a person, they love it. There's not a faculty member who's going to say, oh, get out of my office, I'm too busy. They'll say, you want to talk to me about conflicts of law and such and such a contract? Oh, sit down, we'll talk, or Zoom up and we'll talk. So there's lots of those opportunities.
Yeah, I think it's a benefit to take advantage of, because any of those sort of employment opportunities that are on campus or with your campus community allow for extra flexibility, right? It's that much less time that you're going to be spending out sort of, commuting around and things like that. It's going to be immediately sort of translatable, right? I mean, and it's also building up all of those skills that you need. Sometimes the first jump is nice to do it when it's a little closer to your home, to your social network, and then you build up a little bit of confidence, a little bit of skills that you feel like you can parlay out there, because many of us don't come to law school with this, sort of already acknowledged experience in the legal profession or even professionally working at all. So there's lots of different ways for you to get sort of exposure, and we look forward to, sort of finding those individual ways with you. We do have career counselors that are going to work with you right out of the gate. So they'll start giving you some resources after orientation, and then a little bit further into the semester, they'll start working with you more one-on-one on really crafting your goals and your plans, and start coaching you on how best to. So I think that was, there may be another question that just came in. Is there anything that you wished you would have someone would have told you as a 1L? Just as those of us who've been through law school, they're wondering, what do you wish you knew then that you know now? I mean, we could probably go on for 2 hours on just that, but.
So I'll tell you about myself as a law student. I was a young mom. I had a 1-year-old when I started law school, and then fairly quickly into law school had a second child. So I was totally a non-traditional student. I went to Albany, so I'm a graduate. What I wish someone would have told me is that it does get easier. I did well in law school, but I sure didn't feel that way my first year. And I think I would have liked for someone to say, ask for help or go to faculty office hours. I was shy. I always think it's funny, like so I'm the boss of some of the faculty who taught me now, and they're like, yeah, well, one of them actually, they might remember me because they remember my kid, but they don't remember me in class raising my hand, and now I talk all the time. And I wish that I had known how approachable they were, because I think it would have made it less lonely and less hard. I mean, I wasn't able to spend a lot of time in study groups or anything because I had to go home and take care of my daughter and live this other life. So asking for help and it gets easier are the two things that I would have liked. No, I don't want to scare you because not everyone has that same experience, but that was kind of mine. What about you, Dean Mangione? What do you wish someone had told you your first year?
I definitely echo that. And I am a fan of talking about these. I appreciate the question and I appreciate the willingness to share the things that feel a little bit scary, because that's the whole point. Is they're super scary now. We're trying not to scare you, but the point is they don't have to be scary. If you address them head on, they're far less scary. So one of the things that I would say is address the scary things head on. So whatever you think, if you're shy, you're afraid of public speaking, you're afraid to approach the professor, you're afraid to be in a study group because you're not sure you're going to know as much as your peers, whatever your concerns are, in school is the time to combat those and to break through the other side. Because I assure you, you probably, if you go back to the lesson in life, you can find something where once you got to the other side, you realize, wow, I worried about that way more than I actually had to. It wasn't nearly as bad, so once I got over. So now is the time when you're in that safety net, in that sort of coaching. There are things I wish I had tackled more that took me longer to overcome later because I was too afraid to do it then. But actually then was the time where it was safest and most nurturing to have done it. When you're doing it out on your own later, it's a little bit harder and scarier even still. Plus the stakes can be a little higher, right? If you do make a mistake or you're not as savvy, the stakes are higher. If you do it while you're in that safety net, in that incubator where you have all of these coaches and mentors, it's easier to do. And then the other thing I would add is that I kind of touched a little bit on earlier is be open to all of it. The things that you thought you had no interest in, you might find really spark something that you didn't know about. And the things that you already have a background and interest in will still be there, and you'll naturally be able to learn them and gravitate towards them. But the new things that you're going to be exposed to really open your mind. And one of the things that you'll find in law school is that everything becomes relevant. You start looking and thinking about the world in completely different ways. And all of those little pieces inform it. So you'll have a broader and more complete perspective if you absorb some of those different things. So just try everything and really focus on learning not just the content of the classes, but the whole experience is there to shape you. So be open to all of it, the skills, the networking, the sort of exposure to different fields. You'll have lots of opportunity to just learn a little bit about what's entailed. So just be a sponge, be open, try new things, and just try not to be afraid. It's easy to say, don't be afraid. We're all afraid, but don't let it win, go through it.
Right. Well, and I want to add, as I think about that, I think one of the best things you can do is do something that you didn't, try it out in law school. You fall in love with some subjects you had no idea. So after my first year criminal law class, I was like, this is the coolest thing. I'd always kind of liked, the Law and Order type TV shows, but never thought I wanted to do criminal law. And I got this idea, okay, maybe I do want to do this. So in my upper years in law school, I did an internship at the Albany County DA's office and actually helped with the trial and got a piece of evidence in, and unbelievable, and absolutely convinced me I never, ever, ever wanted to be in a courtroom in that kind of way. I didn't want to do criminal law. It was the best class I ever took in many ways because I didn't make a mistake when it was like a real job. I got academic credit. I got to try something out that I was really nervous and uncomfortable with, but learned a lot. So, that kind of using, that's one of the things that Albany has that it's hard to oversell the opportunities for those field placements and externships where you've got a faculty member working with you as you're learning by doing. And again, because we're the only law school in town, we have way more internships and field placements, then we do students to fill them. So whatever it is you want to try, we can usually make sure that you get an opportunity in that field. There's so much out there.
Yeah, and that's actually related to a question that just popped up in how dependent are those internships and opportunities on class rank?
It kind of depends on what the opportunity is. For things, it's really about fit in the office and not so much about class rank. But if you want to work for a judge, you want to be a judicial clerk, those jobs are really limited to the top of the class. The big law jobs in New York City, so for summer jobs and jobs post-graduation, they are really looking for folks who either are at the top of the class or on law review, and you can write onto law review, so you don't have to be on the top of the class. There's two paths, but so it does. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, because it does for some things, but there's lots of other kinds of legal work out there, and most of us aren't in the top 10% of our class, and still 90% of our graduates get jobs after graduation. So it's not all jobs. There are definitely some things, and the judicial clerkships, I think, are the ones that are the most dependent, where the judges want to hire, someone who's in it depends on the particular judge. Some judges only want like the top 3, and some judges only want someone in the top 20%. But those are a little bit more competitive and based on rank.
But there's definitely opportunities for everyone. So it's going to be, again, utilizing those advisors and mentors, your faculty advisors, your alumni mentors, your career services personnel. Like, they will help you find the right opportunities that are the right fit for you. And there's way more opportunity than there are hours in the day for you to take advantage of them. So as long as you're talking to people, you will find the right opportunities for you, and they're all extremely useful. I think just quickly, one of the other things that I wish I knew when I was a prospective student, not even necessarily coming in, I think everyone imagines that you have to know what it is that you want to do, and you absolutely don't. Many people are still figuring that out, even as they're graduating and going through their careers. There's a lot of opportunity to figure that out. So don't freak yourself out if you don't have it all figured out. That's what you're coming here for, and that's what you'll meet all of these people to do. The only important thing is that you're thinking about it, and you're being reflective, and you're sort of taking advantage of something and then learning from it and figuring out, okay, what did that tell me? Do I need more or less of this? And it's often not just about a subject matter, like a content area of law, like criminal law, property law, etc., but how you like to spend your time, how you like to interact, what you envision as your career, like how your days actually look. Are you working closely with clients? Are you more in a business mode where you only have one client and that's your in-house counsel? Do you like to be in the courtroom, behind the courtroom, mediating, counseling people, doing lobbying work, government, policy? There's all these different ways that you can interact with the law. And sometimes knowing how you like to learn or interact will lead you towards subject matter areas. And that's what a lot of the 1L curriculum is going to give you. Each course is going to teach you not only a different subject matter, but a different way of interacting with the law, whether it's more procedural, more philosophical, more sort of concrete, black letter, versus more applicable, that kind of thing. So be open to all of those different strategies, and that will help you shape some things along the way as well.
I'm trying to answer a question in chat. I see we're running out of time, but there's a question about the law review. That takes place in the summer after your 1L exams, and this year they did it with you get a week, you get the packet, you have to do some editing, you have to do some writing. You're going to be trained to do it. So Introduction to Lawyering is the class where you're going to learn how to research and write. If you want to be on law review, work really hard in Introduction to Lawyering, because that's where you're going to get all of those skills and really hone your legal writing and research abilities. There's usually a topic that you have to write on. You may be asked to write like a memo to a judge or advise a client or something. And you'll do some independent research and write something. You'll use what we call Blue Book, which is how we cite authority. It's very particular. It's things like whether or not you italicize the period at the end of the F2D indicator for, you'll know what this all means later. And if you love detail, the Blue Book is your thing. If you don't love detail, that will be your struggle, and you'll shine on the substance. Some people love both. One of my research assistants is going to be the editor-in-chief of the Law Review this year, and I knew it from the moment that I had hired her because she loved the Blue Book. Like, she just loved it. And I was like, this woman's going to go far with the Law Review. So we'll see that.
That's fun. Well, so we are closing out on our time for now. So I wanted to take a minute to reinforce that there are going to be future opportunities. And in fact, there's constant opportunity, right? So we have created the Facebook group. I know many of you have joined. I know that there's also sometimes, groups, social media groups and student engagement groups form out of that. And so I know that you're all engaging and having conversations. Now is the time of year where everybody really does start to kind of come together, and you can, now that everyone's on the same path and about to step on the same journey at the same time, I think it's a really great time to start sharing. So I encourage you to use the Facebook group to do that inclusively and holistically so that everybody is getting the same info. We have current students and faculty that are all in there navigating it. You have our student ambassadors, you have our admissions office, you have our faculty bios on the website. Now's the time. Start getting in there and getting engaged and getting to know us. We look forward to doing that with you. Dean Willett mentioned we'll be inviting you to a new town hall, which will be next week. And again, then orientation will be soon on the heels of that. But in the meanwhile, this conversation does not have to end. It's just gonna end for this hour. But I think that we've provided a lot of different avenues. And if you're unsure, just email me and I promise I'll get you connected with whoever it is that you need to be connected to. So that's my closing remarks for the day. Dean Willett, did you have anything you wanted to close with?
Take a picture of everyone with their cup if you got.
Oh, sure. That'll help us out with that, right? So if everybody has your mugs, we'll just
toast.
do a little toast. Congratulations and welcome, and we'll do a little pose, and he'll do a screenshot for us.
Albany Law. Can't wait to get to know you better.
Awesome. Well, thanks to all of you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Ben, did you get it?
No, we had some people jumping on and off with their cameras, so if we all just want to do one more time.
One more time.
All right, so folks, jump in if you want to. Everybody turn your camera on.
Even if you don't have your cup, but if you got it, here's. Oops, I'll try to get. Good. All right.
Yeah. Awesome. We see you, Jack. Good job. That was cute. All right. Well, so I'll stay on for a couple minutes in case there's any roundup or people have individual concerns, questions that you'd like to hit me with. But we'll say thanks for joining, and we'll talk to you again real soon.
All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for
Thank
being here.
you.
Thank you.